Donald Trump and Isaias. Since the earliest times, humanity has tirelessly searched for leaders who could bring hope and restore what was lost. In the Old Testament, we find the prophet Isaiah, whose words have resonated for centuries and crossed cultural and temporal boundaries. Isaiah spoke not only of a distant future, but of a vision that would continue to inspire generations long after his time. He prophesied the coming of a leader, one who would not only bring justice, but also renew the lost glory of Israel. This concept of a messianic leader who would restore greatness to a people is a thread that runs through all of history, uniting the ancient with the modern. Now consider the contemporary leaders who emerge with promises to reclaim what was lost and restore the nations they govern. A prime example of this type of leadership is Donald Trump, who captured the imagination of millions with his slogan, "Make America Great Again." For many, this slogan was not just a campaign slogan, but a promise of truth. The promise that the country could return to its days of prosperity, strength, and greatness. It is not difficult to see the parallels between Trump's promise and the words of Isaiah. Both speak of a better future, of a transformation that goes beyond a simple return to the status quo, but of true renewal, a new beginning. Isaiah described this messianic leader as someone who would bring not only prosperity, but also justice. He would be a figure who would unite the people, leading them back to the glory they had lost. Many contemporary leaders are echoing this same sentiment. In their promises, they speak of justice, peace, and a return to values they consider lost, values that resonate with the messianic hope that Isaiah foresaw for Israel. But what does it really mean to be a savior today? In a world marked by political and social divisions, can a modern leader truly embody the spirit of restoration promised by Isaiah? Is it possible for the leaders of our time to fulfill Isaiah's prophecy, bringing true transformation to a people seeking redemption? For many of his supporters, Trump was not just a politician. To them, he represented a bigger idea, something beyond a simple campaign. He was seen as a symbol of recovery, someone who somehow reflected the deepest desires of a people who felt that the best was over. Trump's promise to restore America to greatness resonated with the same promises of renewal that Isaiah made to Israel. He was, in his followers' view, the answer to the anguish of a nation that felt lost, looking to this leader to lead them into a new era of prosperity and peace. The writings of Isaiah, preserved for millennia, offer us a vision of hope in dark times. The prophet's words still resonate in the hearts of many because they are more than just a prediction of a distant future. They are promises of transformation, of change, of a renewal that transcends politics and reaches the spirit of an entire nation. Isaiah lived in a time of great uncertainty and desolation, in a world that was in crisis. But his words were not just a response to a political or social problem. They were a call to hope, a call to believe that even in the greatest adversity, restoration was possible. And today, in our era of rapid change, crisis, and instability, many people still cling to these words as a promise that greatness will eventually be restored. If we transport ourselves back to Isaiah's time, imagine the scene of desolation and suffering that he witnessed. The people of Israel were torn apart by war, famine, and uncertainty. They were not just looking for a ruler who could solve economic or political problems. They were looking for a leader who could bring back the peace, justice, and prosperity that they had lost. Isaiah, in his wisdom, announced that this messianic leader would come to restore Israel to glory, and this restoration would not just be political, but spiritual. He would be someone who could unify the people, who could guide them toward a better future. This vision of Isaiah, though distant in time, continues to resonate in modern society. When we read about the Messiah, about the leader who would bring restoration, it is hard not to see the parallels with the relentless search for transformation that we see today. The desire to restore greatness, to recover what was lost, continues to be one of the deepest aspirations of many people around the world. The setting of the desert of Israel, where Isaiah received his visions, is a powerful paradox. In a barren, lifeless land, the promise of transformation emerges. The dry, Hopeless Land is the stage for one of the greatest promises of restoration that has ever existed. This scenario is not so different from what many feel today. In the midst of hardship, chaos, and uncertainty, Isaiah's words shine like a flame of hope, showing us that even in the most difficult circumstances, restoration is possible. Isaiah spoke of a leader who would restore Israel to its glory, bringing peace, justice, and renewal. He was not just a ruler, but a symbol of God's promise that true restoration would come. And if we look to modern times, we see that this search for renewal is still alive. Just as the people of Israel awaited a messianic leader, today's societies also seek figures who can restore lost greatness and bring back justice and prosperity. The search for a leader who symbolizes renewal and restoration is a universal human need. It is an aspiration that spans generations, cultures, and historical periods. No matter where or when, humanity has always searched for leaders who could bring back peace and prosperity. Today, as in times past, the search for this messianic figure continues to influence politics, culture, and the desire for transformation. Now, if we think of those who promise to restore greatness to their nations, we find, once again, a clear example of this quest. Donald Trump, with his slogan, "Make America Great Again," captured the imagination of millions, offering a vision of a better future where the American nation would regain the strength and prosperity of times past. His promise of renewal, his vision of a return to a time of greatness, reflects exactly the kind of leadership that Isaiah predicted for Israel. This promise of restoration, of a return to lost glory, is something that transcends politics. It is an idea deeply rooted in the human heart. The idea that a leader can restore greatness and bring back lost values is a universal aspiration. And just as Isaiah prophesied the coming of a messianic leader for Israel, many still believe that the best is yet to come, that restoration is possible, and that a better future awaits those who believe in a new era of justice and peace. Part 2. Text expanded again, following the same pattern. Now we turn to the ongoing search for restoration, for a return to a better future. The desire for transformation is a constant in human history, reflected in the aspirations of several generations. Isaiah's prophecy, which spoke of a messianic leader who would restore the glory of Israel, continues to inspire current generations, even as the world has changed. The idea of a leader who brings hope, renewal, and a new future resonates deeply in our hearts, as it did in the hearts of those who heard Isaiah. This relentless search for leaders capable of restoring lost greatness is not a characteristic exclusive to any time or place. It is timeless, reflecting the universal desire to find a leadership figure who not only promises a better future, but is actually capable of bringing it about. Just as the people of Israel eagerly awaited a leader who could restore their dignity and lead the country to a new era of prosperity, many modern societies seek this type of leadership. History shows us that the search for restoration is deeply rooted in human nature. The constant struggle for renewal, for a better future, is something that connects all cultures and eras. Throughout the centuries, we see leaders who emerge with promises of transformation. But can any of them truly fulfill the role that Isaiah described, of being the messianic figure capable of restoring greatness to a people? This leads us to reflect on the promises made throughout history and how they continue to resonate in our search for justice and renewal. As we look at the contemporary world, we see how modern leaders continue to nurture this hope for renewal. The concept of restoration and greatness is not limited to political figures alone, but is also something that touches the hearts of people in different areas of society. Whether in the field of economics, social justice, or even culture, there is a deep call for leaders who can bring back a sense of collective purpose. And interestingly, this need for renewal is not an invention of our time. It is a constant throughout history, reflected in the words of prophets like Isaiah and in humanity's relentless search for a better future. Just like the people of Israel in the Old Testament, many nations around the world continue to await this messianic leader, a figure capable of bringing together the fragments of a divided society and restoring unity and peace. In times of crisis and uncertainty, this expectation becomes even more pronounced. But what exactly would this restoration look like? What, in fact, would it take for a leader to fulfill the promise of bringing a new era of prosperity and justice? When we reflect on these questions, it is impossible not to wonder. Isaiah's desires continue to resonate in the present. He spoke of an idealized future, a time when the glory of Israel would be restored, but his teachings are not limited to the history of an ancient people. His message spans the centuries and continues to touch people today, from different cultures and beliefs. The idea of a leader who can transform the destiny of a nation, a leader who has a clear vision of justice and who brings with him the promise of renewal, is something that continues to be sought. In this context, we see how the figure of leaders like Donald Trump aligns with the desires described by Isaiah. His promise to restore the greatness of the United States is not an empty promise, but reflects a deep desire to recover what many consider lost. The phrase, "Make America Great Again," is not just an electoral slogan, but an appeal to something deeper: the search for the recovery of values, of a time when the country was perceived as an uncontested world power. This promise of a restoration of greatness, of a recovery of a golden age, is a powerful idea that resonates not only in the United States, but in many other parts of the world. All of us, in some way, yearn for a return to better times. The question, however, is this search for a messianic leader, for someone who can truly restore the dignity and strength of a nation, possible today? And if so, what kind of leader do we need? Can the restoration proposed by Isaiah be applied to the modern world? History shows us that, throughout the centuries, the search for transformative leadership has never ceased. And each generation, in turn, has sought a savior who could bring balance, justice, and prosperity. Isaiah was not just a prophet who spoke of a distant future. He understood a universal truth about human nature: the need for transformation, for recovery, for a restoration that was both physical and spiritual. It was not just a matter of a material return, but of a profound renewal that touched the spirit and soul of the people. Today, we see a world marked by inequality, division, and uncertainty. Promises of great change and transformation continue to be made, but can any leader truly fulfill the mission that Isaiah described? Is there still room for a messianic leader in the modern world? Someone who does not just promise temporary solutions, but who brings about a true restoration of society as a whole. The truth is that, when we reflect on this question, we come across a quest that transcends the barriers of time. No matter the era or the political context, humanity always seems to be searching for something greater. Trump's speeches, for example, with their promises of renewal, are just one manifestation of this fundamental need for transformation. And if we look deeper into Isaiah's words, we see that he was also speaking about this same universal quest, a quest for leadership, justice, and restoration. Perhaps this is what explains the connection between Isaiah's words and the yearnings of contemporary societies. The idea of a messianic leader is not a distant fantasy, but a reality that still resonates deeply in the hearts of people. And as we look to the future, perhaps true restoration will not come from a single leader, but from a collective renewal, a transformation that involves everyone, bringing justice, peace, and prosperity to all. What do you think about this relentless search for restoration and transformation? Does Isaiah's prophecy still have something to teach us? If the answer is yes, then perhaps it is time to reflect on the kind of leadership we really need for the future. It is not just a superficial restoration, but a genuine change that goes beyond political promises and leads us to a new time of balance and harmony. As we delve deeper into this reflection on the promised restoration and the impact of Isaiah's words, we can see that, regardless of time and context, humanity never stops looking for a leader who is capable of transforming its destiny. The search for a savior, for a messianic leader who will bring justice, peace, and prosperity, is a constant. In a world filled with uncertainty, the promise of restoration resurfaces with force, like a beacon of hope. But the real question is Is the restoration that Isaiah describes something that can be achieved by a single leader like Trump? Or is true transformation, as Isaiah envisioned, a collective effort, a change that depends on each of us? Trump, with his call for the restoration of American greatness, reflects this universal desire for transformation, for a return to an era of prosperity and confidence. His promises, controversial as they may be, resonate with a deep yearning for a better world, more fairer, stronger. But at the same time, this leads us to an important reflection. What is the role of each of us in this search for renewal? Perhaps true restoration does not depend on a single leader, but rather on a collective vision, on a common commitment to seek justice and balance. Trump, like any other leader, may be part of this story, but the true power of transformation lies in all of us, together, seeking a more promising future. As Isaiah pointed out, the restoration of a people does not happen only through an external miracle, but through an internal change that involves all aspects of society. So, as we look to the future, it is up to each of us to reflect on the kind of world we want to build. Restoration is not just a political promise, but a call for renewal in all areas of life. And if we want greatness to be restored, it is time to unite in search of a future that is more fair, more balanced, and above all, more human. The world continues to search for leaders who can bring about the transformation we so desire, and figures like Trump play an important role in this scenario. However, the true power of restoration lies within all of us. The greatness of a nation or society does not depend on a single person, but on the collective effort towards a common goal. May the restoration, as described by Isaiah, be a living flame in the heart of each one of us, inspiring actions that bring true peace, justice, and prosperity for all. Now, more than ever, is the time to reflect on the role we play in our society. True restoration begins with each one of us. If you were touched by this message, subscribe to the channel to continue exploring themes of transformation and leadership. Let's build a better future together.